Hey, looks like I got some people in locals. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday live stream for the Practical Woodsman. That's right. I'm Rutt, creator and host of the Practical Woodsman. World scientists and philosophers analyzing my noggin and try to figure out all of its secrets. What we're going to talk about today. This is a new arrangement where the live stream is going out to YouTube and to Rumble and to locals. And the first little bit's going to be open to everybody. But then I'm going to close her down, and then it's going to be for supporters only on locals. So if you ain't a part of our online community there on locals, consider joining us. You can do that by going to thepracticalwoodsman.locals.com, or you can download the locals.com app from the App Store and then just search for The Practical Woodsman. I got something interesting to talk about with you today. I'll see if you guys have any comments or anything on your mind that you want to talk about, but you'll notice I'm kind of got a little bit of a different setup here. I'm making some changes here in my workspace, and that's the reason for that. And I haven't got everything worked out of it yet. Like all the kinks worked out yet. Lighting, camera positioning, and all that stuff. And so, you may see this change as time goes on. Let's see. First thing I want to talk about is this thing here. You know what that is? Looks like a giant pill, doesn't it? It's not a giant pill. This is a thermos that's made by a company called Fellow. And the reason why I like this thermos so much is because, especially in the wintertime, when I have my coffee in the morning in the woods, I don't like my coffee to go cold so fast. And a lot of the cups and stuff like that we're using these days are single-walled stainless steel, or worse yet, stainless or single-walled titanium, right? So, it may take you forever to get your fire going and then get your water boiling on the fire. In the wintertime. And then you make your coffee, and because it's cold outside, the coffee goes cold in just, I'm not kidding, in less than 5 minutes. If you're out in the backcountry in the wintertime, your coffee will go cold in 3 minutes, maybe. G Huns is here. Good to see you, old buddy. Thanks for being here. Looks like I've got a couple people on Rumble, a couple people on locals. It's nice. I'm surprised. Don't see anybody on YouTube. Here's another thing I want to say. I had to make some changes, and so the old Practical Woodsman Rumble channel, I had to delete it, and I had to create a new one. And this is part of the reason why, so that I could begin live streaming to Rumble and YouTube and locals at the same time. It was a necessary evil. So if you were subscribed to the Practical Woodsman on Rumble before, like say before last week, you won't find it anymore. Went to Rumble, not locals for me. Oh yeah, it's showing me that. Swarth says he uses Yeti products. Well, I'll tell you, I like Yeti products too. See, this is the type of cup that you might drink your coffee out of in the woods. It's double walled. The problem with this thing, though, is that it doesn't come with a lid. And I like these type of cups that have the clip there for the handle. It's fine, but because it's wide open at the top, your coffee will still go cold in probably 5 minutes in the wintertime using something like this around a campfire. So what I like about this is that it's got this lid that'll screw tight. But another thing I like about this is that I want the thing that keeps my coffee hot to double as something I can put my stew in. So some of you may know that when I get into the backcountry, I like to make a what I call practical woodsman stew. And basically, I take whatever meat I've got, I chop that up. I take whatever vegetables I've got, any pasta I've got. I just throw it all into a thing with some boiling cubes, and it makes a really nice stew in the woods. So you spend so much time making that stew, well, then you don't want it to go cold. You might want to eat that later in the night or even for breakfast. And so I wanted a thermos that could keep my coffee hot, but that I could also store some stew in or keep food hot in. And I didn't want it to be too big and bulky. I wanted it to be nice and compact. And so this is, to me, this is a really nice solution for that. This is from Fellow. Fellow makes that. So if you guys are interested in something like that. And kind of along those lines, I wanted to talk about flasks. How do you carry your whiskey or your booze into the woods? I'll tell you, these flasks are nice for like taking to the movie theater. They're nice for that. They're not nice for a week-long backpacking trip. I'll tell you why. They don't hold but 8 ounces. And 8 ounces goes pretty quick, especially if you're a whiskey drinker. Goes pretty quick. Here's one I got from Yosemite years ago when I went to Yosemite. So this holds only 4 ounces. You know, and if you're out on a week-long excursion in the backcountry, that's just not going to cut it. So I love these things for keeping like in bug out bags and stuff like that, where you can just take a nip of something during an emergency. Walmart has this type of a flask. This also is 8 ounces. And not long ago, somebody from Amazon sent me one of these titanium flasks. Now, titanium being all the rage, you guys might be interested in knowing more about this titanium flask. Let me tell you, I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is because that lid there is so daggum. It's almost friggin' microscopic. And it's not attached to that in any way. You will lose that. And so that's the reason why I don't like it. But otherwise, it's a nice flask. The problem with all flasks is that, like I say, they don't hold, but they don't hold anything. What are some alternatives that I've tried? Well, let me show you. Here's a Silverant titanium bottle. Let me see how much that is. That holds 400 milliliters. 400 milliliters. So that's slightly more than. So if you go to the liquor store and you buy a fifth of whiskey, do you know why they call that a fifth of whiskey? It's a 700. I think it's a 750 milliliter bottle. They'll call that a fifth of whiskey. It's because it's 1/5 of a gallon. I think that's how that goes. 1/5 of a gallon. Yeah, I think that's how that goes. So this then is just slightly less than a fifth of whiskey, or slightly less than half a bottle of whiskey, or slightly more. Sorry. So I've tried that. It's fine. It's just fine. I'll tell you, a lot of things that we do in the woods just complicate what is really not that complicated, doesn't it? Here's another type of bottle that I've used, which it holds about the same amount. But I'll tell you, the easiest solution, you can spend a lot of money on stuff like this to carry your whiskey in and make you feel fancy and stuff like fancy pantsy out in the woods. But the easiest solution I've found is just to buy yourself a couple bottles of cheap whiskey, half a fifth, 300 and see, where does it say? Yeah, 375 milliliter there. I'll tell you the reason why I like these so much. First of all, they have a nice form factor. No, not as fancy as carrying your booze in something like this. But these will take so much abuse, and you just reuse them and reuse them and reuse them. This bottle here is several years old, and I take it out in the woods, empty it, bring it back home, fill it back up. It goes out with me into the woods on the next trip. So, you know, talk about overcomplicating something. Trying out all these things overcomplicate it when you can simply go to the liquor store and buy something in a bottle like this. Just buy yourself two. If you carry two of these, that's 1/5 of whiskey, one bottle of whiskey. What do you call it there in Canada, Sworth? Sworth says on local says they don't call it a fifth of whiskey in Canada. I'm wondering what y'all do call it. Oh, here's another thing they sent me not too long ago from Amazon. It's a little thermos type flask. Double walled. Now, I don't know why your whiskey needs to be in a double walled flask, but they made this. And, it's cute. It's a cute looking bottle. It has this cup that comes with it. It's just a silicone cup. I'll tell you why I don't like that. I think it's the most absurd design of all time. Because you take this out, you pour your drink, and then what do you do with this? You set that down somewhere. What do you set it down on? Its butt. You set it down on its butt, like in the dirt or on some nasty germ-infested surface. And then when you go to pack up, what do? You take that germ-infested surface there and you stick it in your cup that you're going to be drinking out of later. And this is not like a cook cup. I mean, you're never going to have that in the fire or anything, so it's not going to get sterilized. It's just rubber or silicone, and you're just, every time you take that off and put that on, you're jamming all kinds of nasty stuff down into the inside of that cup. So I think it's a pretty ridiculous design. Sworth, are you saying that you call a fifth of whiskey a Mickey? I've never heard of that. I got to look that up. Any y'all out there from Canada call a fifth of whiskey a Mickey? Let me look that up. A Mickey of whiskey. Here's another question for you. Oh, yeah. It comes up. How do you spell whiskey in Canada? Do you spell it with an E or without an E? Inquiring minds want to know. Hey, G-Huns, I saw that you updated your user photograph. It's a good picture. You're out in the woods. Look like you're having a good time. A Mickey. I'd never heard of that. There's got to be some other Canadians out there that'll be seeing this, and they'll appreciate that you represented Canada today with your Mickey comment. Well, this recent episode of Practical Woodsman podcast that I did a couple weeks ago was well received, very well received. So that was just a part one, and the topic of that, the Practical Woodsman episode, was how to take just things you've already got around the house and use them as survival gear and equipment. And so I'm going to be doing a part two of that. I wanted to get it out by this week. I didn't get to do that. But this week, I'm going to be working on a part two to that. And I've got a bunch of interesting things to share with everybody about how you can just take just things you got around the house and use them for woodsman or backcountry gear, survival gear, bushcraft, that sort of thing. Jihan says he knows now when he goes up Canada to go fishing. A lot of guys around here also go fishing up in Canada, Sworth. They say that the what is it, walleye? Is walleye a big? That might be Great Lakes. Swerve's a beer drinker. Doesn't know how to spell whiskey. Well, so here's a little bit of trivia for you about whiskey. We Americans here, we spell it with an E. So if you'll notice, if you pay attention to the spelling of whiskey when you're reading an article about spirits or booze, you'll know if it's an American whiskey because it's spelled Whiskey. And from what I understand, it's everybody else in the world that drops the E and spells it Whisky. So, a little bit of trivia there. It comes in handy. DY Adventures. Go wildin'. Go wildin'. The more you use that, the more that starts catching on in my brain. When you first suggested go wildin', it didn't sound right to me in my head. But the more you say it to me, the more it starts to sound good. DY Adventures is also in Canada. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I have some friends who are serious fishermen. I'll tell you, I used to be a big fisherman. It used to take up a big part of my life, all through the years that I was growing up. I mean, I remember being at school or riding the school bus back home and just chomping at the bit to get back home and grab my fishing pole and run up into the woods and do some fishing. I did it almost every night, and even up into my early 20s, it was something I was doing most evenings. Like I'd get off work and I'd keep my fishing gear in my truck, and then so I'd just get a hankering on the drive home to do some fishing, and I'd just pull over the side of the road and walk up through the woods. I knew where some ponds and stuff were. I don't get to do it as much anymore. You know, growing up has its drawbacks, and I have so many other interests too. It's tough for me to get fishing, but it's something I still enjoy. I've been wanting to do a video here soon, heading up into the wilderness with my camera on like a multi-day and night thing, and taking like a collapsible fishing kit and just seeing what I could catch while I'm out there and film, that me getting by see how much I could get by on fishing without digging into my food reserves and stuff like that. I'm curious about how successful I could be at doing something like that. So you might be seeing a video here in the next few months as the weather gets warmer of me doing something like that. I can't even pronounce that. DY Adventure says I'm up on Lake Winnipesaukee. Am I saying that right? Winnipesaukee? Oh, in New Hampshire. You're not in Canada. You're in New Hampshire. Is that right? I got the wood stove going here today, and it's starting to get hot. It was 7 degrees below zero last week here. Let me see what that is. And hey Siri, what is minus 7 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius?
Minus 7 degrees Fahrenheit is minus 21.67 degrees Celsius.
That's how cold it was last week. And I must be out of my mind, because when the weather does things like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, man, I wish I was out in the woods for this. Big snowstorm comes, man, I wish I was out in the woods for this. Temperature drops like 20 below zero, man, I wish I was out in the woods for this. Because I love facing those challenges and finding very useful methods for staying comfortable despite whatever the weather's doing or whatever the conditions are. DY Adventures is out grilling chicken in the snow. That sounds nice. Well, folks, I appreciate you joining me for this live stream. We're going to keep it brief this time. I had some trouble getting this set up this morning, so you might have seen like 5 or 6 different notices for the live stream before. And I was wanting to do it at 12:30 was when I wanted to do it. But I'm using a different setup now, and like I said, you can see behind me that things are a little different than you're used to seeing. I'm making some changes, and so the lighting's not very good here today. I'm going to fix that, and maybe I'll give you a tour of the area later on sometime. But I appreciate you guys joining us here on YouTube and on Locals and on Rumble. Consider joining us on Locals. We have some faithful members over there, but we would love to grow the group and have ongoing conversations about the woods, about hunting, about fishing, about anything dealing with nature as the week goes on, and not have to deal with a lot of the negative stuff that you find on most of the social media platforms. So I specifically chose Locals because it offers a little bit of support for me doing this, and at the same time, it ensures freedom of speech. You can share your hunting photos over there, your videos, and stuff like that. And we can talk about whatever we want to talk about as long as it's legal. So consider it. It's thepracticalwoodsman.locals.com, or you can download the local, really nifty locals.com app from the App Store. You guys have been around with me for a while. You might have noticed that I designed a new logo. And so we've got a new Practical Woodsman logo. I'm trying to pull up our group here. Yeah, there's our Practical Woodsman online community. Have all sorts of interesting discussions and stuff. Share some things that we don't share anywhere else, like me sleeping there. I don't remember why I put that there. My daughter took that picture. Anywho, we'll see you over there on the group. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. DY Adventures, thanks for being here. Swerth, good to see you, old buddy. And of course, G Huns, nice to see you. I'm going to let you guys all get back to your weekend, and I've got some things to do too. So good to see y'all. And see you on the next episode of The Practical Woodsman. That's right.